For many years, my mobility routine was about 45 minutes to an hour long, and that made sense for me because it was my job. I was a yoga teacher and I was teaching other yoga teachers, so it made sense for the clientele that I was serving. But maybe for you, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, nor do you even have the time or maybe even want to practice that long just doing mobility drills. So something that I came up with for myself, especially being a new parent, is optimizing our mobility sequence down to 3 moves. And these 3 moves covers mostly everything that you need to get deeper into a squat, to feel like you're getting strength and length in your hip flexors. Same with your hamstrings, ankles, and maintaining rotation in your spine. It covers all of it. So if you're ready for that, come meet me on the mat. All right, the first move, we start in a 90-90 position and we're gonna work on external and internal rotation, but we're also gonna add a component of hip flexion as well as hamstring flexibility. So it gets a little bit of everything, all right? In your 90-90, start out by getting nice and long in the spine. Then you're gonna take an exhale and lift up the front leg. As you lift up the front leg, try to think about lifting up the foot higher than the knee. It's not actually going to happen, but you're fighting for that action of external rotation. Then you're going to kick the foot forward. While you do this, pushing the back knee and the foot down into the ground, staying long in the spine. Turn the toes up and set it down. Get long and fold forward, trying to keep the spine straight and hinging at the hips, just rotating the pelvis forward. Here, you'll feel a little bit more pressure going into the heel, so you want to dig that heel down. Maybe even think about hugging the foot back. That's going to engage the hamstring and introduce a bit of strength into this stretch. You're going to hold it here for 3 breaths, then come back up, lift up the foot as high as you can, bend the knee in as tight as you can towards your chest, and then come back into that external rotation, trying to lift the foot up, and then set the leg down. Now you're trying to set the knee down before the foot. Not actually going to happen, and that's fine. It's the attempt that matters. Once that's down, then you're going to focus your attention to the back leg and drive the knee down and pick up the foot. What you don't want to do is to rotate your chest and your hips forward in order to lift the foot up higher. So try to keep everything stationary and just focus on the rotation happening in the back leg. You're going to hold it here for 3 breaths and then set it down. Now you're going to repeat the same action on this side a total of 10 times. Then you're going to switch sides and do the same thing on the other side 10 times. Now the second move that you're going to do is going to work on the bottom of your feet, even part of your calf, as well as your quads and some of your hip flexors. We start out with the toes tucked, sitting down onto the heels. And if this feels pretty comfortable for you, you can think about driving the knees down, driving the feet down, and leaning back a little bit. What this does is adds a little bit more weight into the toes so that you open up the bottom of the feet a little bit more. And you're going to hold it here for 5 breaths. And then after your 5 breaths, you're going to give yourself a little bit of a break. You can untuck the toes and slap your feet out. And then we're going to work on stretching out the quads. So bring your hands down, walk it behind you, and squeeze your glutes. And what that feels like is you're going to come into a posterior tilt in the pelvis, where your tailbone is rotating forward and up. And that will give you a deeper stretch into your quads here. If this feels okay, stay here. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can think about squeezing the glutes and lifting the hips up a little bit. You don't have to go very far to get a deeper stretch. And then you're going to hold it here for 5 breaths and come back down. Next, we're going to work on our plantar flexion. So untuck the toes, come onto the tops of the feet. Make sure all 10 toes are spread and laying down. Then you're going to lean back and pick up the knees off the ground, just pressing the tops of the feet down. You're going to hold it here for 5 breaths. And then after 5 breaths, you're going to slap the feet out, give yourself a break. Make sure that your knees are hips width apart, feet are hips width apart. You're going to sit back onto your heels and you're going to do the same thing, but this time with the toes untucked. You're going to squeeze the glutes coming into a posterior tilt in the pelvis, press the tops of the feet down, press the knees down into the ground, and start to lift the hips up a little bit. And you should feel a nice stretch a little bit higher this time. Instead of down close to the knee attachment for your quad, you should feel it a little bit higher, maybe in the middle of the quad, maybe even the hip flexor. as you lift the hips up and breathe for 5 breaths. After 5 breaths, you're going to come down and we're going to come into the third exercise, which works on our hamstring mobility as well as our hip flexor mobility. Start out in a lunge position, and before we get into the stretch by dropping the hips down, I want you to squeeze the legs towards each other. You'll feel a deepening of a stretch here in your quad as well as your hip flexor, and then we're going to make it deeper by squeezing, firing up the back glute. And just by doing that, you'll feel a nice stretch into your psoas. And then you're going to take it deeper by bending into the front knee. After you've held it here for 5 breaths, then we're going to come into the half split. Instead of kicking the leg straight and folding down, trying to get your head down to your knee, what we're going to do is pull the toes back and pull the heel back. And that's going to help engage the hamstring and the calf. And then you're just going to focus on rotating the pelvis forward. It's going to feel like you're not going as deep into the pose, but sensation wise, it's going to feel like so much of a deeper stretch. You're going to hold it here for 5 breaths, and then you're going to repeat the process coming into this position and this position a total of 5 times. Then when you're done with your rounds, you're going to take the hand on the same side as your back leg, place it to the outside of the front knee, take this into a twist for 3 breaths. After 3 breaths, you're going to take it up and over, stretching into the side body, and then coming out. And you're going to do that a total of 3 times. All right, those 3 moves covered hip extension, hip flexion, internal and external rotation, as well as spine rotation. Covers a little bit of everything, and you did it in just 3 moves. Give this a try daily and see the difference that it makes in your body.